First of all, thanks Hannah and the Nairobi Garage team for asking me to be a part of your webinar series regarding COVID-19. I really like to keep these sessions interactive that I've done with Nairobi Garage and in the past. So, feel free to kind of ping your questions across either on chat or feel free to kind of raise your hand and interrupt me. It may be worth just sharing some background for those who don't know Spring Valley Coffee. We are one of Kenya's oldest artisanal roasters. We've been around for 10 years. I bought the business 2 years ago. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I used to run a company called Naked Pizza, which I sold to Pizza Hut about 4 years ago, and spent most of my life in private equity and venture capital and finance prior to that. Having taken over this business 2 years ago, we used to have two lines of business: a wholesale business supplying a lot of hospitality customers, hotels, restaurants, cafes, and the like. And then the other side was our retail business, where we ran cafes. And when I bought the business, we had one cafe in Spring Valley. We currently had up until last week 4 cafes. One, the original cafe in Spring Valley, one at Westgate, one at Village Market, and one at Wilson Airport. Our business in the last 2 years has expanded quite significantly. In addition to our own cafes and our wholesale business, we also export directly to customers in the US, Canada, the UK, and continental Europe. And we also supply in a number of leading supermarkets in and around Kenya. Hannah asked me to speak a little bit about COVID and COVID-19 and the impact that that's actually had on our business. It's actually been quite interesting. It's been an interesting couple of months. February, we had our second best month ever in terms of from a revenue perspective, and March was on track to be our best month ever right up until about the 15th. And a few significant changes happened. One is almost every major or a number of major hotels that we supply actually closed their doors. Not just to customers, but just across the board. So they've actually shut. A number have mothballed up until June. A number of the lodges that we supply and support out at the game parks, and a number of hotels out at the coast. So our hospitality business diminished significantly from the hotel perspective. A number of restaurants, having moved to takeaway only about 2 and a bit weeks ago, again, have significantly suffered in terms of sales and walk-in customers. So those that use our coffee, people like Hob House, Zen Garden, Cultiva, and Zucchini, have had that walk-in business almost disappear. And that's had a significant impact on that side of the revenue of our business. From our own cafes, Wilson Airport, unfortunately, we've had to temporarily shut it down given the cancellation of flights from the terminal that we were based in. So we've lost one of our 4 cafes, and the footfall in Village Market and Westgate has diminished considerably given that people don't want to go into crowded spaces, but at the same time, a number of our traditional customer base is either isolating or some of them have chosen to actually go back to their home countries during this time. Hannah asked me to talk a little bit about what we did and how this has affected our business. I mean, our revenue has perhaps been decimated in some revenue streams 100%, in some 50%, in some 75%, in some 95%. And she wanted me to talk about what we did. So we've kind of done a couple of things. But before I get into that, I'd like to kind of talk about our waterfall in terms of importance in our organization. And at the top of that list of 5 people, the first is actually our team and our employees. And they really are at the top of what we do because we can't do anything without them. The second is actually our customers. We have no reason to exist as a business without our customers. The third is the community in which we operate. And for me, a lot of that started in Spring Valley, where we have been for 10 years. But at the same time, it is also where where we support a lot of the community around us. The fourth is actually our suppliers, and then the fifth is our owners and our investors. And very much in that order. So the steps that we've taken to really try and make it through this period, as this business, as the entire world is changing, our industry is changing, a lot of the businesses that we support are changing, we had to make some hard calls. The hardest call that we had to make wasn't that hard, which is deciding that we wanted to keep all of our staff employed. And once that was clear, because they are really at the top of our distribution waterfall, we said, what do we need to make that happen? So I personally called every single supplier that we've had and had a very candid conversation in terms of where we're at. Thankfully, we're relatively current with all of our suppliers, so had the conversation around not being able to actually make payments until the 1st of July at the earliest. And actually all of our suppliers have actually been incredibly supportive, bar one, and I'll come to that in just a second. We've also had very candid conversations with our landlords at all of our locations about what the current environment is, what the future environment looks like, and that we will not be in a position to pay rent, at least for the next quarter. We've received nothing back definitively or in writing in terms of what they may or may not agree to. We've also asked our team to make some sacrifices. So what we've done is I've taken 100% pay cut until the crisis is over. My senior leadership team has taken pay cuts from anywhere between 25% to 75%. Some have agreed to a deferral for up to 6 months of their pay, those that aren't in absolute need. And our junior staff, from our baristas to our cleaners to our rider, have actually agreed to take a 25% pay cut for the next 4 months. The conversation that we had is we have 3 months of cash in the bank, and we said if we have 3 months of cash in the bank, then either we can pay you in full for 3 months, or we can spread that over 4 months and give this a chance of survival. The view that we took is this will bounce back. We're not sure when. I've been speaking to friends and colleagues. In fact, yesterday I spent a couple of hours on the phone with some colleagues in Asia, and things are beginning to finally bounce back in China and to a lesser extent in Thailand and Singapore. But the view that we took is if we can keep our team intact, and our business is really built around our team. We have a fantastic product, but product will always be there. We said if we can keep our team intact, keep them motivated, keep them engaged, then when this thing bounces back, people will revert to the smaller luxuries in life. People aren't going to travel this year, definitely not internationally. Domestically, I think there will be some hesitation to travel, both from a risk perspective, but also from a financial perspective. People don't have certainty of jobs, of income, of how their businesses are performing. People, I believe, will stop going out to expensive restaurants for meals because that disposable income perhaps is a question mark. But I think the little luxuries in life, going out and grabbing a coffee, grabbing a croissant, will bounce back relatively quickly. And we've seen that in the last couple of weeks where we've had a takeaway-only culture where people have actually been coming in. But the interesting thing about our team is we collectively agreed to 3 things. One is for everyone to take their paid leave for 2018 and 2019 that was accrued. We were very lucky in that a lot of our team had not taken leave because they'd accrued it as we'd grown tremendously in the last 2 years. So accrued leave for those 2 years. Leave accrued for 2020 up to the current year. And then we tried to do something innovative, and I can't take this idea as our own. We actually borrowed it from a colleague of ours in the industry. We're taking future leave. So the leave that you would accrue for the rest of 2020, should you be working for us full time, we give all of our staff 21 paid days a year, and you've accrued 5 until the end of March, there's another 16 days there. So we want to make sure that everybody's getting paid and taking paid leave. The sacrifice for the team is that they may not have any leave left after this thing pans out. But at the end of the day, they all have jobs, and that's the most important thing to us. So that's from a staff perspective. From a community perspective, we fundamentally, just given kind of some of the way that we operate our business, we have a commitment to a charity that we continue to make. There was a hard discussion about do we continue to make those contributions or not, and we took the view that it's important for us to make those contributions because now is when people need it the most. Coming back to staff for a moment, a number of our staff either don't have clean running water at home or don't have water at all. And we actually bought sanitation kits from a company called Grounded so that people could self-sanitize not just themselves, but also their homes. And that was really important for us to do very early in the process. We continue to replenish those resources for our team because that really is the pinnacle of everything that we do. There's a question here from Mamboy. How long do you decide you can manage to not pay rent in this climate? Mamboy, the reality of this is, I don't know, and I don't think anybody does know. Our view is that things are going to be difficult for the next 3 months. I also think landlords are in a difficult position because if we weren't going to pay rent and all of them are holding deposits for us and we did leave, I think in this environment somebody else coming in is incredibly unlikely. But I think more importantly is they'd rather the tenants and the people that they know than those that they don't. And everybody's going to feel the pain. That's going to be us. Our employees have taken a discount in terms of their gross salary. Thankfully, what the government's done is minimize that impact with this new PAYE kind of regulation coming in effect from this month. Our suppliers have been super flexible and have given us until July. And again, I'll mention bar one, which I'll come back to in a second. And we expect our landlords to do the same in this environment. One thing we've also done is actually be super, super innovative. We wanted to convert everything we have into cash. So typically, we roast coffee, we supply to restaurants, to cafes, to hotels, and many of those are not operating. And we said, one of our core values is doing the right thing. So we actually went to a number of our large customers who we know are not going to be able to pay for the next 9 to 12 months. And we actually said, guys, if you have stock that is unused and unopened, we will take that stock back. And we took that stock back, issued them with a credit note, bring our receivables down, but then repackage that coffee, because it is the same coffee, back into our own coffee, into our own bags, and able to continue supplying that to our customers, which has minimized the cash impact on us having to buy coffee on, in dollars at auction, on the open market. I mean, it has actually worked out quite well. And I mentioned this to Hannah as I was walking into the room, that the auction has been postponed or cancelled the last 2 weeks, simply because where the auction takes place at Kahawa House in town hasn't been signed off by the Ministry of Health, so we're unable to participate in the auction. So having those great direct farm, direct supply relationships has really paid itself in dividends at this time. I don't know if there are any other questions. I definitely wanted to keep this session as interactive as possible. Nick, thanks for your message. You said that commendable that we prioritize stuff. I don't think it's about being commended, to be honest. I don't think it's about prioritizing. The staff are at the top of everything that we do, and I think if we don't take care of our staff, they're the ones that take care of our customers. I mean, I'm one person. My leadership team is 6 people, but in reality, we have 15 frontline staff, and they're the ones that take care of all of you, that drink our coffee, that buy our bags. And if we're not taking care of them, then they're not taking care of our customers. So it's incredibly deliberate that we've actually kind of built our infrastructure and built our distribution waterfall that our staff do come first. Hannah, really good question. What are our plans after COVID? It's interesting. A lot of people are pulling up the handbrake. They're stopping expansion plans. We had in our game plan to build 4 to 6 more, super small footprint, grab and go takeaway locations similar to our other shops. Those plans remain in place. It may not be 4 to 6, it might be 2 to 3. And those are conversations that I'm having with my board, and those are conversations that I'm having with some of the landlords in those places. We are actually taking this time, we're taking a step back. We're actually doing the things that sometimes many of you as fast-growing businesses may not have the time to do. And one of those things is we're reviewing all the job descriptions for the people that we had descriptions for. We've grown so much as a team. We've gone from 7 to 30 people in the last 2 years. We're writing job descriptions for people that didn't have them before. We're cleaning up our HR. We're getting all of our administrative stuff out of the way, our audits, all of our paperwork. We are actually spending time implementing systems that are critical to our business, putting in an ERP for our production side, which we actually hadn't, it's been on the cards, we hadn't done it, and we've now said by the end of April that needs to be in place. We're rolling out a new point of sale system that we need to run our retail operations. So all the stuff that, for me personally and my leadership team perhaps may not have had time to do, we're now spending time on that as businesses slow down. Wambui, in the event that all leave days from 18, 19, and 20 run out, would you consider unpaid leave? And what legalities do we sense are required for that? So if there's any change in employment contract, your employees have to sign a letter. We've just done a 1-page letter saying that they acknowledge that the salary portion of their contract is changing. And we had them all sign that before we conducted payroll at the end of March. If we get, I'm hopeful, and I'm generally an internal optimist, I hopefully think we'll get through 18, 19, and 20 leave before anything happens. If people have to, we have now the conversation about unpaid leave. I would prefer not to have that conversation simply because I think people do need to get paid to survive. And this is now about survival. I think this is not about people getting paid or not getting paid. And if that means cutting that to 50% or cutting that to 25%, but they're getting something so that they're able to meet their basic needs, I'd rather have that conversation and drag that out for a little bit longer rather than moving to a point of unpaid leave, because I think it becomes incredibly challenging for people to survive. Kevin, where do you see the hospitality industry in the next 2 to 3 months? And what do I foretell about the business environment? I wish I could tell you what it's going to look like after COVID-19. My gut instinct, and from the experience shares that I've had from many of my colleagues and friends in other markets that are maybe a couple of weeks or a couple of months ahead of us, is what's interesting is I was actually speaking to a friend in Shanghai who runs a chain of restaurants yesterday, and he actually said now that the restrictions are easing off, people are coming into restaurants, people are coming into cafes, but it's very different. There's a lot fewer tables. People don't want to sit near other people. They don't want to share tables. So social distancing, I think, is becoming part of the norm on a going forward basis. And people are spreading out. So I think that will come back, relatively quickly if there is a lockdown, and assuming that there may be a lockdown. Thank you. If there is a lockdown and if there is a lockdown and that lockdown does end, people will be raring to get out. I've been speaking to friends in South Africa and the hospitality industry. There's a 21-day lockdown, and everyone's sitting and talking about where they're going to go as soon as the lockdown ends. So I think hospitality will come back, but I think it'll come back in stages. It'll come back to takeaways. It'll be, let's grab a drink, let's grab a coffee, let's grab an inexpensive or a good value meal, as opposed to, hey, let's go to a super high-end 5-star restaurant and splash out, because we don't know what the future looks like. Hospitality, and actually, a number of hotels that we support and that are partners of ours, I know for a fact have decided to remain closed until the end of May or the early part of June, simply because there are no visitors, there are no local travelers, there are no international travelers, and I think that's having an impact on many people's businesses. So I think that will take time to bounce back. I think inexpensive food, grab and go, will pick up much faster. Then it'll be kind of the more value restaurants, then the more kind of fast casual or casual dining, before getting into the higher end. Hannah, can I share about the coffee auction? Yeah, for those who don't know, coffee in Kenya typically has to go through the auction, even if there's a direct supplier relationship, unless it's deemed explicitly for export. And the auction has been cancelled the last 2 weeks, either because of health concerns or the facility not being approved by the Ministry of Health. And that has implications both in the domestic industry. We struggled. We actually picked up our coffee yesterday from some of the direct relationships and existing contracts that we have. But it's also having an impact on global coffee prices. So the unfortunate benefit is the price has gone up, which is great for farmers and great for some of the intermediaries, but we're not able to get the coffee out of the market. So that is having an impact on coffee prices globally. Daisy, I've mentioned that we're cleaning up and getting new systems. Does that mean that with systems in place we reduce manpower? A really good question. Absolutely not. The systems that we're putting in place has been on the cards for a while, and that is there to actually augment the teams that we have so that we don't need to increase our manpower as our business was on trajectory to continue growing at the pace that it was. This is to optimize. This is actually for us to have better controls, better stock controls, better financial controls in place. And to be honest, the only people that we envision leaving the organization were those that were on performance management issues anyway. But even if that does end up happening, we've decided to do the humane thing and to see this through before we have some of those conversations. Wangeshi, you said as one of our suppliers, thank you for reaching out. It's quite rare. Thank you for saying that, Wangeshi. I think, for me, it's really important that we discuss, and have conversations and open conversations with all of our stakeholders. And our employees are part of that. Our community is part of that. Our customers, obviously, a big part of that. But so are our suppliers. And what's been interesting and actually very surprising and refreshing is that every supplier said, we will continue to supply you even if you're unable to pay us because we know you're good for it. And I think, that's the support that the business community needs to continue giving one another. And we continue to extend some of those credit terms to our customers. And the view that we took as a business is any supplier that is smaller than us, either in terms of revenue or business size, we actually paid them all before the end of March. Any supplier that is larger than us from a revenue perspective, I had the conversation with them about extending those payment terms. But Wangeshi, thanks for your comment. Mumo, you asked about any ideas on service-based industries such as film and photography can survive during this time where you can't carry out your services. It's a tough question. I mean, we are, we had put together a lot of content from our side, from the people that do our photography and our filming. We're now rolling it out and releasing it slowly. I think this is a great time to perhaps showcase some of the work that you do have, and are you able to put that on places where people can perhaps buy stock images or buy images that they may be able to use, that maybe don't have to go out and create fresh content, or if you're creating content but not in a space that's largely populated, because that is difficult, and who are your takers for that? And can you offer some kind of, if you've already created the content, the work's been, can you offer some kind of deferred payment plan? It's interesting. We're not paying any of our large suppliers at the moment, and in many cases, we're also not paying some of our small suppliers. But what we're doing is we're working with people to say, hey, if we continue to need your services, at least for that stuff, we will continue paying for that, on a cash basis. So, for example, we're working with some small artisans that are creating crates for us, creating display counters. We're paying them in cash for that, so they can continue their livelihood as well. Mikkel, how do I feel about consumer habits and how are they going to change?
I just want to try if we can see if you can do it on this computer, just because it's a little bit. Oops. Let's try that.
Okay, guys, I'm back here as I think as Hannah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thanks, Mikkel. You asked how do I think consumer habits are going to change post-COVID. I think consumer habits are going to change. I think people are going to have less of a disposable income and less willingness to part with that income. I think people aren't going to want to be in confined spaces. I think people aren't going to want to spend significant sums of money on what could be deemed as a luxury. And especially if they've had to make cuts and compensation and changes to their own businesses and to their own lifestyles. I think if a vaccine is found, and vaccine, I think at the earliest stage from everything that I've read, the earliest is 18 months away, maybe sooner. But I think once there's a vaccine in place, I think you'll see a drastic shift and perhaps people move closer to the norm. But the longer that this stays the norm, I think the longer people will stay away or maintain those distances. Nick, how has the recently announced tax incentives affected our business? To be really honest, I think part of it was optics. To say we're going to reduce the tax rate from 30% to 25% is great if you're going to make a profit. I would be surprised if anybody makes a significant profit this year, so I think that was just window dressing. The reduction in PAYE below 24,000 to zero, I think will have a significant impact on my team, which I'm very grateful for, especially for the people that are earning below that amount with the reduction that they've agreed to. And I think with that reduction that they've agreed to, hopefully the net impact is less painful, especially if they're not commuting to work for many of those that are either taking leave or working from home. The VAT reduction from 16% to 14%, we have not passed that on to our customers. We maintain that. That 2%, if we're able to achieve even 50% of sales that we achieved in March, if we're able to achieve 50% April, assuming there's no lockdown, that will effectively cover the salary for 2 baristas. So from my perspective, I think that's perhaps the most impactful thing that's going to happen. Lucy, where I see food online orders and home deliveries going post-COVID. I think online ordering, one is, to be really honest, I don't know if there's anybody from Jumia or from Jumia, Glovo or Uber Eats on this call. I think there are people that have actually been, to be very candid, have been price gouging. They're not, many of them, some have said that they're willing to move on pricing for what they charge some restaurants. We refuse to participate in any of those online platforms because that benefit, a lot of that benefit is truly for those platforms. We don't have enough margin in our product for that to make sense. We are delivering directly to customers. We have seen delivery of bags go up. People are also more willing to, we never used to deliver beverages. It was something that we're willing to try. We are doing it. The integrity of a coffee delivered versus having one in store, picking one up is significantly different. I think people are willing to accept lower standards to have something brought to them. I think you will see more deliveries, but if we look at our population in Kenya and in Nairobi, the number of people that are actually delivering into the office or the home, it's still the same subset of population, same people that are ordering more frequently. That's what we're seeing in our own statistics. Boy, in the new world order, many people are considering digitizing their business models. How does that work for a bricks and mortar business like ours? To be honest, it doesn't. We're relatively digital as far as we can be. We produce coffee. We have roasting machines. We have a team of 3 roasters. We have an operations team of 5 people. That doesn't change. I can't digitize a coffee for you. I can make it easier for you to order one. You can order on WhatsApp. You can order via email. You can order with a phone call. You can walk in. We can't digitize our product, unfortunately. Or fortunately, because human interaction, it was a really interesting statistic I read the other day, is that more people may die from depression than the actual disease, because if they're lacking that human interaction. So I don't believe we can digitize our channels, which we've begun to do. We were doing it before. We can digitize other things, but I do not believe that we can digitize our business. One thing that I want to say to many of you that are on the call is, it's very easy in this environment to get absolutely consumed by social media, by negative news, by kind of the forwards we're getting on WhatsApp. And I just wanted to share some of my own daily practice every day. And it's something that's actually helped keep me sane. One is I follow a pretty strict morning routine, and I've stuck to it even when I continue to work from home the days that I have. I've actually come into the office most days. But one is actually doing 30 minutes of rigorous exercise. It really gets the blood flowing to my head, around my body, gives me energy that I need for the day. The next thing that I continue to do every single day is to literally spend 10 minutes meditating every day, 10 minutes writing down things that I'm grateful for in a gratitude journal. And it's the practice I've been following for many years, but it really helps me be thankful in this environment in terms of what's going on. What am I grateful for? And still, what am I excited about? I spend 10 minutes writing down things that I'm excited about, because there is always opportunity, and it doesn't mean that it has to be malicious. It doesn't mean that it has to be threatening, but there is opportunity. And I truly believe that opportunity does exist. We've been pivoting our business model. We've been slow to pivot some things. We are debating about whether we open more retail outlets or not. And this situation has given us the support, has given us the confidence to say, actually, that's the direction our business needs to take. And then the third thing is I actually write down my top 5 priorities for the day. What are the 5 things that are really, really important to me that I want to achieve in that day? And that really gives me clarity of purpose. And if I have that for the day, then I can actually get through those things and not get sucked down the social media routes, not get sucked down by the forwards that I have. And I actually try and limit the time that I spend on my WhatsApp or on my email, or I'm not even on Facebook, or I'm personally not active on Instagram. And I try and stay away from that because it's easy to go down that rabbit hole. And this gives me the clarity of mind. The second thing is I communicate and over-communicate to my team. That's some cases a video message, an email to the guys that are on email, on WhatsApp, on text, and that's in English and in Swahili, because for me, my team is feeling a significant sense of uncertainty. And it's really taking care of the people that are taking care of our customers. Even if our customers aren't there today, they will come back. The world will come back. We've actually come back from a lot worse. I don't know if there's any. Oh, sorry, I missed a couple of questions. My apologies. Rachel, what were some of the biggest lessons with Naked Pizza, and what are other lessons that rapidly adjust this period? Biggest lessons from Naked Pizza was, I think I did not have the right team around me. When I built that business, I was effectively an entrepreneur alone at the top. I didn't have a leadership team. And when I built this business, very much from day one, I wanted a leadership team. And today, I have a general manager, I have a CFO, I have a head of finance, I have an operations manager. In fact, some people that came with me from my days at Naked Pizza. And what I have found is surrounding myself with people that are smarter than me in many of the disciplines allows the business to do what it needs to do, allows people to do what they need to do, and I'm no longer the bottleneck. So for me is surrounding myself with smart people, and if it's not people that actually work for us, it's reaching out to peers, to mentors, and actually asking their opinion, asking for their input, asking for their experience. I mean, I probably spend about 2 hours a day on Zoom calls or on WhatsApp calls with people around the world. I'm part of something called the Entrepreneurs Organization, and I'm a member of the Kenya chapter. I've been a member of the global organization for almost 6 years now, and reaching out to those peers because they're a few weeks or a few months ahead of us in the curve, and reaching out to them, leaning on them, and them sharing their experiences so that we're not making the same mistakes, or that we're learning from their experiences. Jennifer, most of us are being forced to pivot or change our business model. How can we do that without using lots of money? It's really interesting how much innovation comes out at this time. I'll give you an example. We had a location at Wilson Airport where in addition to just coffees and pastries, we also sold snacks, we sold crisps and gum and chocolate and stock that we can't sell at any of our other shops because we can't because of our leases or because we don't want to compete with some of our neighbors in the community. And we actually went to our local petrol station and we said, hey, listen, do you want this stuff at cost? Would you like to buy this instead of buying it from a regular supplier so that we can take it off our books? And literally, they handed us a check, they bought our stock. So we're trying to convert everything we can into cash is number one. Number two, how do we pivot? We're big believers in experimenting and testing. We have a flask delivery business where we deliver 10 cups of coffee and a flask of coffee. A flask of coffee, that is 10 cups of coffee. We haven't really advertised it. We tested 1 or 2 people. Now we have groups of people that are literally ordering that for their fix for the day. We were just testing it. So we're experimenting, and I think customers are also more willing in this environment for us to make mistakes. They're more willing for our standards to perhaps not be right where they normally are, but to be a little bit lower because we're testing. and we're communicating that to our customers. But thank you guys for listening. Thank you for being involved. Again, if nothing else, this, I truly believe this too shall pass. I don't know when. I think somebody else, is it 3 months? Is it 3 weeks? Is it 6 months? I have absolutely no idea. But the one thing that I do believe is there are people, we're all finding it tough as business leaders, as business owners, as senior executives in the companies that we work in or run. But there are people at other parts of society that are really going to suffer. I suspect there are people that are going to be hungry. There's an incredible charity called Charity Connect 254 that we support, and they're really helping people, be that the homeless in Nairobi, be that refugees in the country, with food, with meals, with dry food, with washing stations. Because the most vulnerable parts of our society are the ones that need our help the most. And it's really easy to sit here and say, oh, my business is down 30, 40, 50%, or half my staff is on leave. But at the end of the day, there are people that don't have shelter, that don't have food. And I really believe that, the world is changing. Somebody talked about the post-COVID business environment. I think the post-COVID humanity is going to change. And I think, we look around the people that are around us. How can we help people? How can we do that one thing? We have in our business, in our business manuals, what's one thing you can do to delight a customer every day? And now we're trying to extend that. What's one thing you can do to delight everybody you interact with? Be it a customer, be it the guard at the gate when you drive in, be it your local newspaper guy. What's the one thing that you can do? And that's a question that I ask myself with every interaction that I have.